You might be here for Miss South Africa coverage, but really this episode is a masterclass on what judges are looking for. There are so many insights in this episode from beginning to end that you are not going to want to miss. My name is Dani. Thank you for clicking this episode. I hope you'll subscribe. I am first going to give you an update on exactly what I'm talking about here though. So this year is the second year that the Miss South Africa organization has released an online show through their Miss South Africa app. You can watch for free. I'll link that below as well. It is called Crown Chasers, and this is kind of like an America's Next Top Model style of show where the top 12 all live in a house together, or they all live in the same building actually, and they go through eliminations every single week leading down to, I believe, the top 7. Then the top 7 are the ones that are going to move on to finals and compete for the Miss South Africa crown. What's really cool about this is that they are putting these contestants through different scenarios as if they were Miss South Africa. And these scenarios and challenges are all based on 4 things, and that is the pillars of duty, championship, beauty, and empowerment. Zozibini Tunzi, Miss Universe 2019, who was also Miss South Africa, is the host of the show, so I love that. Okay, I love seeing her. I love giving these opportunities to title holders. This is so cool. And the judges throughout the show, they might be former title holders, or they are sponsors, or in some way they are involved with the organization. If you're unfamiliar with this pageant, they do allow returning contestants to come back and recompete. There are several returners, and one makes this edition very unique, very interesting, and it's why everybody's kind of waiting to see what in the world is going to happen, but we'll talk about that more at the end. In episode 1, Anka is somebody who they really liked in the first shoot, and I feel like these photo shoots are really influential for judges, not just for this, but in pageantry in general. And I really hope that if you're a contestant, you will listen into the judging process on this show so you can understand how important your images are. That's why it's important to get a professional headshot. That's why I advocate for that with professional hair and makeup, because it really does sway a judge's opinion about you. It creates an idea that they start forming in their head about who you are and who you will be as a title holder. One of the challenges in the first episode is that the contestants had only 15 minutes to meet with sponsors at the pageant in a cocktail type setting, and they had to network with these sponsors, and then at the end of the night the sponsors had a little token and they got to vote for their favorite contestant, like whoever they felt was the friendliest, the nicest, whoever was charming, charismatic, all of that. Jordan, who is a returning contestant, mentioned in this episode that networking, it's just not her strength, which is not good as a title holder. That's not great, but you know what? We're here, we're growing, that's what's great. She's pushing outside of her comfort zone. This is great prep for her. Another returner, Melissa, ended up winning the networking challenge, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I've talked about her in the past when she competed in 2020. Very, very talented speaker. She has such a commanding presence. She commands a room, in my opinion. Now here's what's interesting. Natasha came in second for this competition, and if you don't already know, Natasha placed in the top 3 already at Miss South Africa, and she represented South Africa at Miss Universe already. So I would say that is quite an advantage because there's so much rigorous training that goes into that. So they did their little challenge, and then after that, before the judges decide who they're going to eliminate for the episode, they do essentially like a walk-off. Like they all do their runway walk for the week. After that happens, they announce their top 3 favorites and then the winner of the week, and then the bottom 3, and then they eliminate one of those contestants. The other really smart thing that I think that they did here was that they are really weaving the sponsors all over these little episodes. So you see L'Oreal really featured at the forefront of all of these episodes at the end when the ladies get their hair and makeup done. Really, really smart. I would say I think this is the direction that Miss Universe is going to be going more into, but new owner and very, very smart. She's been rolling out Miss Universe products, essentially merchandise, and that's really, really smart. That is a way to increase revenue. That's something like creators like myself will do. It's like that's one of the ways that you can make more money is like do a merch rollout, and that's what they're doing for Miss Universe, and that's powerful because they own that merch. If they can get it made at a low cost, they own the merch, versus if they're partnering with another brand, maybe they're only getting a small portion of the fees, and that would be like through affiliate marketing. So I think this is a very smart move for the Miss Universe organization. That's a whole other note. In the second episode, the fun challenge was that they all had to create a vlog, and this was kicked off by telling the contestants that you have 30 minutes to pack your bags for a 6-day trip to Mauritius. I was watching this and I was like, why couldn't we have done this at Miss USA ever? I was like, I love networking events. I actually did a pageant, fun fact, years ago, and that was the first round of the pageant. That was the first cut. You had to go to a mixer with the judges and just be yourself, be natural, and that's how they made that first cut. It was really fun. And then this, I was like, oh my gosh, a vlogging challenge? Like, sign me up. As I said at the beginning, this episode is like a masterclass on what are judges looking for. When the judges were critiquing the contestants' vlogs, they said something so important that I caught, but a lot of you might not catch because you haven't sat in those judges' rooms. The judge said that they loved one of the girls because she did a great job featuring the sponsors. And I was like, yes, oh my gosh, this is the expectation now for title holders within organizations. That is one of the things that they're quote unquote looking for. And even if you're not a title holder, you can demonstrate that you would do a great job representing sponsors if you do a great job representing your own sponsors, or by partnering with different businesses in your community and posting about them. That's one of the job qualifications that more and more pageants are looking for, and so many contestants are missing it. Y'all are missing it. You are losing titles and you're not standing out just because you didn't make a post on social media. And that is a silly reason not to stand out. If you're thinking, yes, oh my gosh, I get it, give the video a thumbs up. I'd love to hear from you on this one. In this vlogging episode, the ladies also took part in a beautiful swimsuit photo shoot. Oh my gosh, it looks so fun. I also need to book a trip to Mauritius, apparently. Gorgeous. I also really like that they involved Miss Mauritius 2023, and she kind of toured the contestants, and I thought that was so cute. For this episode, Natasha won the runway challenge, and I will say that she looked really, really great in her outfit too. I feel like that also helped. And just the fact that she went to Miss Universe, she's already had a lot of walking training, so we're now seeing how that's benefiting her here and making sure that she's not eliminated. Episode 3, love this episode. The contestants all participated in a photo shoot, but they had to do their own hair and makeup. I cannot tell you how many times contestants message me or they complain to me that a pageant didn't provide hair and makeup for them. They don't have to. And actually, it's more so the norm that pageants don't provide hair and makeup. And I really feel like contestants get the idea that hair and makeup is always going to be there because of Miss USA, because you see like the backstage area, the contestants getting their hair and makeup done, which in reality, they're just getting it touched up. These ladies have to learn how to do their own hair and makeup. Why? Because there is no glam team that follows you around throughout your reign. You may have access to a glam team sometimes, but usually you're gonna have to do your own hair and makeup. So that is a part of being a prepared contestant. And they're already testing these ladies with that. And I love that. And I will say that these women did an outstanding job with their own hair and makeup. They looked fantastic. Just loved it. In this episode, the team compared Melissa to a celebrity, and I could totally see that, okay? To me, she's always had star power. I've loved her since the first time I saw her compete. In this episode, Natasha also got a lot of positive feedback from this photo shoot, and I was already starting to feel like she was gaining an advantage. Another fun thing that the ladies got to do that I was like, oh wow, this is just really stretching them in different ways, and it's helping them to think more creatively or understand more that pageants are a business. And I feel like some of the most successful title holders understand that. You get it. So for this episode, they collaborated with a drink sponsor, and the ladies were split into teams of 2, and they had to design their own can and marketing campaign. And I thought this was just brilliant. They had a little bit of help. They had somebody come in and kind of give them a little bit of inspiration, but at the end they got to present their can, the reason that they created it, what made it unique, stand out in their marketing campaign. It was very creative. I was really blown away. Some of the teams incorporated Braille on their can, other cans lit up. Some cans had significance because of the colors that were used on the can. It was just so cool, and I just thought it was so smart, because if you can just develop that background of like business branding, marketing, you're gonna have just a better idea of what judges value, what organizations value, and it'll be easier for you to show the parts of yourself that are like, hey, I understand that, and this is what I have to offer. This is why you should pick me. Now, this episode was a little bit scandalous in a way too. Okay, so there was a contestant, her name is Laverne, and during this episode, right before elimination, she excused herself. And she said that this was because of her mental health being at risk, essentially because of things that people were saying about her online. And if you're just watching the show and you have no context for this, there were reports and there were allegations while she was going through this process that she had been bullying people. Now, what was interesting is that in the episode, she said that she was the one who's been bullied and that hasn't bullied other people. I don't know if you could ever really know or find out or really sift through what's true and what's not true. All we do know is that she did pull out of the competition after all of those allegations. And I think it would have been really, really difficult for her to overcome that in the event that she went all the way and became Miss South Africa. That's gonna be something that would follow you to Miss Universe. For the can challenge, Natasha and Nande won this challenge, and I thought it was really, really interesting is they talked about the colors on the can representing the soil of South Africa, that being some of the meaning behind it. And I was sitting there thinking, just like Zosie's gown, she talked about that when she won Miss Universe, her gown that went from the brown, which represented the soil, up to the blue, which were the waters of South Africa. I was like, very interesting. But Zosie isn't a judge, so I don't think it really mattered, but it was funny to me. For this episode, Natasha won again. Oh my goodness. So she's kind of on a roll here. In episode 4, the ladies got to train with the women's national team, and I thought that was really cool. They did a plank challenge at Anka 1, and if you win the challenge, the prize for this is that later in the episode, when the ladies all were able to present a speech, which was about their heritage, so where they came from, and then also their future, where they're going, you were able to select the order that all the contestants went in as your prize. So Anka was really nice though, and she just drew from a hat. She actually chose herself as first though. She said, I just want to get it over with, and then things proceeded from there. I'm not going to get into this part, but I can tell you that I cried listening to clips of their speeches. For the sake of editing the episode, they did cut them down, so you didn't get to hear everything in every single speech, but you got to hear little bits. And if you want to see all of them, they are available on the Miss South Africa app, but just what I saw was enough for me to just be in tears. Hearing these women's stories were incredible. Now, here's another really, really important thing that was shared in this episode by the judges that I wish contestants understood. One of the judges made a comment that it's interesting to see who is the best on the ramp versus who has the strongest images versus who is winning or doing very well in the challenges. And they essentially were saying that no one woman was that for everything all the time. Ladies, that is the reality of pageants. So it was a huge mindset shift that I had amongst others. And actually, I get into more detail about mindset shifts that you really need in order to win in this other episode. Highly suggest, check this one out. But this mindset shift that I had years ago was that I didn't have to be the best. The judges said that what it ends up coming down to is consistency. Yes, and that's why when it comes down to that last onstage question, for example, some people are confused with the results because they're just thinking, oh, the person with the best question wins. Not usually, it's consistency. But at a very young age, I realized, wait a second, there's no pressure for me to be number one. I just have to keep making it past the cuts. That's how I was able to win so many different titles across different pageant systems over the years. I did not have to have the best walk, the best interview, the best personal introduction, the best swimsuit performance. I didn't. I just couldn't have anything below the cut. And then that's how a lot of the times we get winners. It's like, well, how did she get there? She was just consistent. And then the other girls that maybe have had a lot of hype built up around them, that's why a lot of those girls, maybe they only make it past the first cut in a pageant and you don't see them move on because they're already so in their heads. They have this idea that they have to be the best and they are afraid that they can't meet that expectation. So guess what? They overperform, they underperform, they trip, they mess up on stage, whatever it is. One of those things happen because they're living under this pressure that they don't have to live under, versus people like myself. I was just like always like sliding right on through the next rounds of a pageant and I kept on moving forward because I was sitting there with the knowledge that consistency typically wins. And the judges say this right to their faces. And the other thing is that they said that when we talk about consistency is that it's reflective of how dimensional a person is. And I tell this to clients all the time. And I just feel like sometimes I'm talking to a wall, even on the channel, ladies, as I'm like, you need to be multidimensional. I see too many contestants when I'm working or when I'm judging that are one-trick ponies. They are not dimensional. They come in, they tell me about what they want to be when they grow up, and they tell me about the work that they've done in their community, i.e. their pageant platform, whatever you want to call it. That's all they have to talk about. That's it. And it is boring. It's very, very boring. So you need to be more than that. You need to be a multi-dimensional person. The other great point that the judges brought up that I was like, duh, yes, this is something that I also understood at a young age, and that's why I won a lot of national speech competitions, state speech competitions, that this is why, till this day, I still write winning speech after winning speech after winning speech. It's because of what I'm about to tell you. The judges, when they were evaluating the speeches, they said that it was important that a contestant did not just bring a sob story, but that they brought inspiration with it too. Ladies, too many of y'all are coming in there with these speeches, introductions, whatever it is, and you're just talking about sad things and you're trying to get sympathy from the judges. That is not why they're going to pick you. That's not why you're going to win. They're not going to pick you because you're having the worst day of your life, the worst year of their life. They want a winner in general, somebody who is an overcomer, somebody who is triumphant, somebody who faces challenges and moves past them. Many of you are just kind of leaving it where it's at. You're just sharing sad stories and that's it. And essentially, you know what the effect of that is? You're just bumming out the judges. And I see this in interview a lot too. Girls just come in, they share a sad story, and it's like when they leave the room, all of us are like, oh my gosh, that was a lot. That was a lot for us to take on. I wasn't ready for this therapy session today. There are episode winners and there are challenge winners. And for this particular episode, Omba won the speech challenge and she also won the overall episode. But it is noteworthy that Natasha and Anka were also in that top 3. At the end of episode 4, we are down to a top 8 and we have to discuss something very interesting that I've never seen before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something maybe not in recent years. That is the fact that Natasha is entering. So she's allowed to, by rules. She can compete for the Miss South Africa title. Typically though, and historically, the winner of that Miss South Africa title goes to compete at Miss Universe. Not always, but it does happen. In fact, the year that Natasha was top 3, she didn't go home with the Miss South Africa title, hence her coming back to compete. She was second runner-up that year, and she ended up being chosen to go to the Miss Universe competition. So here's what's very interesting. To me, it's looking like Natasha's gonna take home that Miss South Africa title. When I'm listening to the judges, when I'm watching every episode, she's consistently in the top 3 or she's winning challenges and they keep talking about how there's something special about her. It really seems like this is her time, this is her year. That's what makes things interesting. A lot of times contestants will compete at Miss South Africa because they believe and they hope that they'll go to the Miss Universe competition. But this would be one of those really rare cases where if Natasha wins, she cannot go to Miss Universe. So if you're a contestant competing with Natasha this year, what's interesting is if your goal is to be Miss Universe South Africa, you actually need to aim a little bit lower. In this case, you do not want to be Miss South Africa. You actually want to be a Miss South Africa runner-up so that you can qualify for Miss Universe, and that is something so rare. We usually don't see that. It is something very interesting. I think it's kind of tricky for contestants because it's like, okay, you know, aiming to win is one thing, but aiming for first or second runner-up is another, and it just adds a whole other level of difficulty to all of this. I'm really not sure, but it's very interesting and I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this because my mind is blown. In the meantime though, I have created these other episodes leading up to Miss South Africa and really ideally Miss Universe season. So check them out. I think you'll like them, but thanks for joining me for this episode. I hope to see you soon.